Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Today in this session, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Louisiana Revised Statutes and the Louisiana Children's Code, how to find them and how to research in them. And hopefully that will help guide you as you are starting your clinic research this semester. So I'm going to first click where it says State Materials and then go into Louisiana. And I will scroll down to Louisiana statutes and court rules. Now, there are a couple of things here that I wanted to remind you about. Don't forget to use your favorites. If you haven't watched the Staying Organized video, be sure to do that. I've already saved the Louisiana Criminal Code as well as the Louisiana Children's Code in my clinic research favorite. So be sure to go back and watch that video. All right, so I am in Louisiana Statutes and Court Rules. So there are a couple of places here that you need to remember how to access, and that is first the Louisiana Revised Statutes and the Louisiana Children's Code. And I want to show you how to research in a couple of different ways in both of them. So the first place I'm going to click into is the Louisiana Revised Statutes. All right, so we are here in the Louisiana Revised Statutes, and I want to show you a couple of things. So first, it opens up in table of contents form, as if I was looking through the Louisiana Revised Statutes in print. And I could just simply type in a search here, and that's fine. Again, you could easily start that way, but you would be searching in all of Louisiana Revised Statutes. So you could do a couple of things. So I'm going to scroll down to the correct title after all of our court rules, Title 14 for the Criminal Code. So I could go here and start doing my research in just this title. And this is obviously a much more effective way to do your research. So you're not searching in all the statutes, you're just searching in the Louisiana Criminal Code, the criminal law for our jurisdiction. So you could do your search here. And again, this is an easy way to start. Another way to start is by utilizing the index. I love an index. It is located over on the right side of the screen. This is available for all 50 state statutes as well as the US code. And so this is a great tool to use if you're going to be searching terminology that's pretty common and might appear in a lot of different statutes. So I'm going to click on the letter B as just my example here. And you can see everything here that might be in the Louisiana statutes. I don't know what B drinkers are, or bad checks and baggage and bank and banking law and barber colleges. So I could go and find any statute on any of these subjects by simply clicking on those links. But I'm going to scroll down to burden of proof. And so here we have burden of proof, and it's going to give me in the evidence section a couple of sections here. So I'm going to look at Louisiana Revised Statute 15 to 271, plea of not guilty, burden of proof. The plea of not guilty throws upon the state the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt each element of the crime necessary to constitute the defendant's guilt. Again, I can add this to my folder. If you watch the first video, we created a special folder for burden of proof. I can drop that in there. If I needed case law or some secondary sources that talk about burden of proof, I could see here the reasonable doubt standard, the state bears the burden, any prosecution beyond a reasonable doubt. I could take a look at any of these cases. I could also look at key site citing references. Perhaps maybe there are some additional cases here that might be useful, as well as some secondary sources. Remember, notes of decisions are just cases that the West editors have pulled out and have essentially said, these are some really good cases that have discussed, the meaning, the purpose of section 271. Citing references will be anything that has cited to this section. So this list is usually longer than the notes of decisions because it's not just cases. It can also be other court documents as well as secondary sources. So don't forget, secondary sources are a great way to learn about a topic, especially something you are unfamiliar with. And you can learn a lot by just simply looking at the titles of the articles to see if they might be helpful for your research. And so here we have, there's a whole section in the Louisiana criminal trial practice volume, burden of proof. There's a whole section about reasonable doubt. Maybe I want to drop a couple of those into my folder that I created and hopefully save that into my burden of proof folder, subfolder from my clinic research for client number 1, and save that information. So this is just an easy way to get started. If you know that there's a statute that might be out there guiding you to find cases or secondary sources, because we've attached all the material for you. All right, I'm going to go back a couple of clicks. I'm going to go back to, actually, let me go back to the statutes, and then I'm going to click into the children's code. So when I was in the criminal law title 14 of the Louisiana revised statutes, you could have done a search at the top, and then I showed you how to utilize the index over on the right side of the screen. Now, the other way to search through a code is by utilizing the table of contents itself. And this to me is another easy way to do this because you can see everything on your screen. And so you can see here, I've opened up the children's code and you can see all the different titles and then all of the articles underneath each title within that title. So each of the chapters within that title. So I could start just going through here. So let's say I was looking through about maybe perhaps client competency and wanted to see if there was anything specifically about that. So if I start going through, here it is. Title 8, delinquency, mental incapacity to proceed. So maybe this might be the section that I would want to take a look at. And so here we have, how is mental incapacity raised, the effect, mental examinations, determination of mental capacity to proceed. What's the procedure after that? So now you can see that these might be some of the sections that you need. And I find a lot of times when students are doing statutory research in particular, they'll find a statute and they'll think, oh, this is it, I'm done. But just easily looking through the table of contents shows me that there might be other sections that might be applicable or helpful to my research. And so I might need to look at section 832 to perhaps maybe 837 to see how these might work for me. I could start at 832, hop into this section. And again, don't forget about your notes of decisions and key site citing references. So if any of these are in fact the section that you need or will be helpful, and then I can click back on my table of contents to go to the next section and just see where I am within the code that I'm looking at. So Again, this to me is just another easy way to search through a statutory code. And so to make sure that you're not missing anything, because a lot of times, again, I will see, oh, mental examinations, this is the section I need. And you might think, well, I'm done. Well, there's a whole chapter on mental incapacity. So again, I should definitely click on chapter 7 and make sure that I'm not missing anything. But even more importantly, well, maybe I want all of these to drop into maybe perhaps a new folder. Maybe I need to add a new folder about mental incapacity into my folders that I have been saving some of my work on. So that is how you can search your statutory codes, your Louisiana revised statutes, your Louisiana children's code, utilizing the index, as well as utilizing the table of contents. And I know you all know how to create a search in the toolbar, so you could do that as well in any of these databases. And don't forget, I added this to my favorites as well already. So I saved the entire children's code up at the top in my favorite. So don't forget to do that. You can see there's my Louisiana children's code, and you would simply just click add to favorites. You could even save a specific chapter if you want to your favorites. I saved the whole children's code to my favorites. So you can see there's the entire children's code. But if you only needed chapter 7, just save chapter 7. Either option works. Again, however you want to stay organized and whatever best fits what you are researching on currently. The other thing that I would like to say about favorites is you can even create favorites by each topic that you're researching, burden of proof, mental incapacity, transfer of court. So again, I just have them all in one, which I find to be a little bit easier. You can see I have a lot because I'm always teaching different schools, different classes. So, but again, this is just a couple of ways for you to stay organized and to find the statutory information that you're looking for. All right, I hope that was helpful, and stay tuned for the next video.